Welcome back to my second tutorial using variables in PHP. For this tutorial we're going to be using some mathematics, doing mathematical equations. We're going to start off with some addition. So if you want to pause it here and write down this code, that's great. I went ahead and typed mine up beforehand due to time constraints with YouTube videos. So what I did here was I created a variable and I stored the number 10 inside of it. I created another variable and I stored the number 20 inside of it. Then I created a total variable. You can name all your variables anything you want. I just named them this to basically the reference. That way when I have thousands of lines of code later and I get an error, I can find it easily and fix it. So the total variable is going to store the information from variable 1 plus variable 2. So the end result of these two added together is going to be stored inside the total variable. Then I call another variable, or create another variable, I'm sorry, and it's going to contain the text string. These two variables, or the two variables added together, equals. I put my space here, that way my end result doesn't get bunched all up beside the equal sign. So if I had two strings of text here and I wanted to space them apart, I would always want to add a space in between the final quote to give me that little space there. So I have my four variables now: number 1, number 2, total, and text. All the variables start with the $sign, and all the lines of code in PHP and with the semicolon. So the final thing I want to do to end this is use the print command. And my print command always contains the parentheses. So what I did was I said print the text, and obviously the text contains this information, so print that out for me. I call full stop. Then I want to call my variable total, and it's going to contain the end result of adding these two variables together. So what I end up with is something that looks like this. Now if you don't get this, you're going to get an error, probably a parse error, and you're going to want to reference what line it's on and then go back here and count your lines out and figure out what you did wrong. But if you typed it like I did, then you won't get any error whatsoever. Now the reason I didn't put quotes around the 10 and the 20 here, my numbers, is because PHP has a lot of different commands and functions that we're going to be going over, and a lot of them use numbers. So usually when you use quotes, it's to declare a string of text. Now if I had a sentence and that sentence happened to contain numbers, then of course I would want the whole thing in quotes. But because these are just numbers by themselves, I do not quote them, because later on it's going to cause me errors when I use quotes with numbers and I'm working with commands. So as good practice, I leave my quotes off, and later on you're going to see why, and it's going to make more sense to you. But let's just call it a parsing error, and the way PHP parses its data, this won't error out on you, but later on you're going to see how it could cause conflicts for you. So this is the addition part of this. Now if I wanted to do subtraction, all I would have to do is delete that, add a little subtraction symbol. It's that simple. So to do multiplication, I did the same thing basically, except I added the asterisk. That's the multiplication sign in PHP. Also what I did was I used the print command, and I didn't store this text inside a variable this time. This goes back to our first tutorial with the server on how to print direct text. So I went ahead and used that function here to limit lines of code. That way I wouldn't be needing that variable again, I wouldn't be changing it, so why use it? Instead of using another line of code, I figured I'm just going to print it all out on one line without the use of a variable. So if you look at the way I did my addition one, you can see I created a variable to store that text in, and I called that variable. Now if I was gonna do one huge section of code with multiplication, addition, all that stuff, then yeah, I'd probably want to store this information in a variable, this line of the string of text. That way I could just keep calling that variable over and over without having to type all that out. But because I split these up, I just wanted to show you guys how to do this directly without the use of a variable. So it's the same exact thing as the addition, except we have a multiplication symbol. Now if we wanted to do division, we would want to use our /. That's the sign for division. Excuse me. So, you know, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The final thing to learn from this is our order of operations. So if we were using, let's create another variable real quick, I'll show you. Let's call this variable number 3, and let's just say that it has number 4, contains number 4, and we'll change that back to addition, and let's add in our variable number 3. Oops, sorry, can't type today. So order of operations from grade school mathematics states that it does the parentheses, it does our parentheses first, so on and so forth, works its way down. What's going to happen if I run this line of code is it's going to do our multiplication before it does our addition here. So it's going to multiply variable number 2 by variable number 3, then it's going to add that result to variable number 1. So if you had parentheses, or if you had division, subtraction, it's gonna work its way through it. This is just a simple multiplication variable or example, but later on when you're doing complex mathematics, then you're going to want to remember your order of operations, and just remember the same rules apply to PHP. It's the same stuff you learned in grade school, so if you paid attention there, you're not going to have a problem with it here. So to recap, you create your variables with the $sign. You can store numbers or strings of text inside of them. If the string of text is going to contain a number, then it's fine to use quotes. If not, for general coding rules, I would say leave the quotes off, and that way later you won't get comfortable using quotes with numbers and cause yourself tons of errors. So our PHP ends with, each line ends with the semicolon, and you can print your text directly by calling the print function, or you can store your text inside of a variable, and you can name your variables anything you like. And in my next tutorial, I'm going to start with conditional logic using the if-else statements